In this video, I'm going to be answering the internet's most frequently asked questions about the Borg. Major spoilers lie ahead, so consider yourself warned. Where did the Borg come from? The Borg originated in the Delta Quadrant, and according to the Borg Queen, they started out as a species very similar to humans, but over thousands of centuries, they evolved into organic life forms with cybernetic enhancements. How do the Borg assimilate? The Borg use assimilation tubules, which are similar to long, flexible syringes, and they inject their victims with tiny microscopic machines called nanoprobes. These nanoprobes start to change that individual from the inside out, with their most important function being to connect that individual to the hive mind.
I hear it too. Billions of voices speaking as one.
In addition, that individual is surgically altered so that various physical components are completely replaced with mechanical augments. Can the Borg adapt to bullets? We see that the Borg adapt pretty quickly to phaser fire by creating personal force fields that absorb the energy of the phaser fire and harmlessly dissipate it away. Now, while phaser fire looks like a beam of light, it's actually a beam of nadion particles, which means there is something physical coming out of the phaser and going into the object it's being pointed at. Those particles could heat things, dissolve things, or even blow things up. In the same way, I believe that Borg could generate a force field that's strong enough to absorb the energy of a physical bullet and dissipate that harmlessly away. However, as we've seen, it took a couple of Borg being hit with phaser fire before they adapted. And I think the same is true with bullets. It's going to take multiple Borg drones being hit with that exact type of bullet before they create an adaptation to it. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Resistance is futile. Are the Borg in Deep Space Nine? No, the Borg are not in Deep Space Nine. They are mentioned in the pilot episode Emissary, and that's because of the Borg's impact on Captain Sisko's life. We discover that Captain Sisko was serving on a ship that was attacked in the Battle of Wolf 359, and his wife Jennifer was sadly killed. This attack was led by Locutus of Borg, which was the assimilated version of Captain Picard. So naturally, that caused some tension between Sisko and Picard when they first met. Throughout the show, the Borg are referenced a handful of times, but they're not shown on screen. While the Borg were originally introduced in The Next Generation, we do see them come back as recurring characters. We see a lot of them in Voyager, but we also see them in Enterprise, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and the amazing movie First Contact. What happened to the Borg in Discovery? Starting in season 3, the Discovery jumped about 1,000 years into the future from where it originated. And this was about 800 years in the future from the events happening in Picard. In Picard, we see that the Borg are decimated. The neurolytic pathogen that Janeway attacked the collective with in the series finale of Voyager called Endgame was extremely effective, and it's left the Borg Queen as a mere shell of what she used to be, and the collective is all but gone. In Picard season 3, the Enterprise destroys the Borg Queen and puts an end to her reign. However, in Picard season 2, we get an alternate Borg Queen, who is a combination of Jurati and a Borg Queen from an alternate timeline. This collective acts a little bit differently. Instead of assimilating species en masse, whether they like it or not, they only assimilate volunteers. Basically, individuals who are near death get the option to either die or become part of the collective. This other, more humane collective has been operating in the shadows for the last several hundred years and have been granted provisional acceptance into the Federation. So by the time we get to Discovery, we don't know what exactly has happened to the Borg. Are they still out there living their best life, or have they become extinct? But what we do know is that in a scene from Lower Decks, at some point in the far future, Borg children are learning right alongside many other species that are members of the Federation. So presumably at the time of Discovery, whether the Borg are active or not, they are at peace with the Federation. Can the Borg assimilate Data? Data as an android is kind of the height of technological advancement as far as artificial life goes, and the Borg worship perfection. So Data could absolutely be assimilated. He has something similar to a bloodstream where nanoprobes can flow. He's got something similar to a human brain in his positronic net and could be connected to the hive mind. And in First Contact, we see the Borg Queen doing her level best to seduce Data into the collective. Now, she could have just assimilated him and forced him to join, but she actually was not looking for yet another drone. She was looking for a partner to rule the galaxy with her, and she wanted one who would volunteer willingly, and her tools of persuasion were to give him some biological enhancements that he did not have, so he could experience the same physical sensation that biological organisms felt. Thankfully, she was unsuccessful. Can the Borg assimilate a Q? No, there's no way the Borg could assimilate a Q, because a Q could just snap the Borg out of existence existence in an instant. They don't, but they could. Can the Borg assimilate a changeling? This is such an interesting question. Changelings are shapeshifters, and they can imitate a person perfectly, even down to their physical mannerisms and the way that they speak. They can even imitate inanimate objects, pots or comm badges, or even a cup of coffee. However, they must spend some amount of time in their liquid state, at least for inexperienced changelings like Odo. Presumably, the Borg could assimilate a changeling when it's in its corporeal form by injecting it with nanoprobes like it would do with any other species. However, how would this work when the changeling is in liquid form? Would the Borg just dump a bunch of nanoprobes into the bucket of goo? And if so, would that work? For this question, my answer is maybe. If they could, I think a Borg changeling would be nearly unstoppable. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Can the Borg be defeated? Yes, the Borg can be defeated. In fact, in Voyager's Scorpion, we come across species 8472, a life form that, according to 7 of 9, is the first organism to actually be able to resist the Borg. They are strong, devious, and cunning, and completely determined to destroy everything that is hostile towards them. Species 8472 dwells in fluidic space, and while they were there just doing their thing, the Borg invaded and tried to assimilate them. Species 8472 did not take kindly to this. They considered it an act of war, and they in turn started to invade the Delta Quadrant, destroying everything they came across, including spaceships, space stations, and entire planets. Captain Janeway considered species 8472 to be an even deadlier threat than the Borg, and so the two made a temporary alliance. The Doctor created a bioweapon that ended the war and forced them back into fluidic space. Unfortunately, this caused species 8472 to disregard the Borg as a threat and to consider the Federation a bigger threat and to start preparing for war against the Alpha Quadrant. Thankfully, Captain Janeway was able to convince them that they had no interest in war, and she even gave them a sample of the bioweapon so that they could study it and come up with countermeasures. So in the end, some level of peace was created. Can the Borg survive in space? Yes, the Borg can survive in space. We see in First Contact that they can walk outside on the hull and work on creating a piece of technology without a helmet or any kind of protective wear from the harsh conditions of space. Not only that, but we see that the Borg are not flying off of the hull, which means that they're also able to generate some kind of magnetism between their boots and the hull, which is wild. Whatever the nanoprobes do to the biology of their bodies prevents them from freezing or exploding or burning or any other kinds of catastrophic damage that would normally happen from an unprotected body being in space. Why do the Borg need to regenerate? Regeneration is sort of like sleep in the sense that it gives the Borg systems, both biological and technological, a chance to recover and be repaired. Also, at least according to 7 of 9, it is a much more efficient form of rejuvenation than something like meditation might be. But it's also not like sleep because the Borg drones' minds still remain active, and they can participate in tasks like repairing the ship's systems or performing other software maintenance while they are regenerating. They can even create whole new worlds where their unassimilated forms can go on dates. Drones that are connected to the hive mind can go for hundreds of hours without needing to regenerate, assuming they're not damaged. But Borgs that are disconnected from the hive mind, like 7 of 9 or like Hugh, need to regenerate every single day. Why are the Borg so scary? The Borg are so scary because they are an impersonal force. With the exception of the Borg Queen, the drones attack with no malice of forethought and no remorse. That means you can't beg or plead or bribe your way out of becoming assimilated. They're also super strong. So if you're in a one-on-one battle and they've already adapted to your weapons, you're pretty much going to be assimilated. They're practically unstoppable and they are implacable in their pursuit. And that is terrifying. Do you have a question about the Borg that I did not cover in this video? If so, drop it in the comments below. And then watch this video next because YouTube thinks you'll like it.